All right, let's just jump right in. As people, we have this fundamental, almost primal need to figure things out. We're hardwired to build systems, to come up with methods, to write rulebooks, sometimes literally, all in an effort to understand and, maybe control the world around us. It's just what we do. So think about it like this. You've got two totally different paths, but they're both aiming for the same thing, mastery. On one side, you have the engineer. Picture James Watt, using science and math to perfect the steam engine, creating something predictable and powerful that changed the world. And on the other side, the magician. They're not building engines, they're trying to master us, our perception. They use psychology and misdirection to create illusions that feel impossible. But at their core, both are experts at using a specific method to get a specific result. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about why having a method is so powerful in the first place. Then, we'll dive into a really unlikely and pretty controversial playbook. After that, we'll connect the dots to the actual science of attraction, take a detour into the world of master magicians, and then we'll wrap up by asking, what happens when you just close the rulebook? Okay, let's get into our first section, the power of the method. So why are we so drawn to systems for everything? You see it in sports, in business, in our own lives, right? Having a plan, a structure, it just gives us a feeling of control and a clear path to getting better. And this quote from Kobe, man, it just nails the mindset behind any great method. See, it's not just about knowing the right technique. It's about trusting the process. It's about practicing relentlessly. And this is the key part, changing how you think about failure. Failure stops being the end of the world. It's just data. It's feedback that tells you what to tweak for the next time. Like you said, you fail, you wake up the next morning, and you're okay. You just get back to the process. All right, so this drive for system, it can lead us to some pretty strange places. For this next part, we're going to crack open a really unique cultural artifact from the early 2000s that tried to turn human interaction into a literal step-by-step game. We're going to treat it like a scientific specimen. It's curious, it's controversial, but it tells us a lot about that desire to systematize everything, even connection. The system itself is called the mystery method. The handbook for it calls it a proven game plan for attraction, something developed over more than a decade of so-called field testing. The entire goal was to take this incredibly messy, unpredictable thing, attraction, and turn it into a repeatable, almost scientific formula. The core belief? That attraction isn't a choice. It's an automatic reflex, like you trigger. Now, to really get the system, you gotta learn the lingo. The first term is a neg. A classic example from the book goes something like this. Nice dress. I saw you wearing that at another club last week. You see what it is? It's a backhanded compliment. The whole point is to subtly show you're not that interested, and to get past what the book calls a person's protection shields. It's a calculated, manipulative tool. Next up is the DHV, which stands for Demonstration of Higher Value. According to this method, basically anything you do or say that signals you're a good catch, smart, successful, popular, is a DHV. It could be telling a great story, or even just being seen with other people. The whole idea is that this flips a hardwired attraction switch in someone's brain. And then there's this concept called compliance momentum. The playbook tells you to get someone to agree to really tiny, harmless requests. It calls them hoops, like asking them to hold your drink for a second. The theory is that every little yes is like a snowball rolling downhill. It builds momentum, making it way more likely they'll say yes to bigger things later on. It essentially turns a normal conversation into a series of tests. And all these little pieces come together in what's called the M3 model. It's a simple 3-act play for courtship. Act 1, you attract, using your tools like DHVs and negs. Act 2, you build comfort, actually making a connection. And Act 3, seduce. And just like that, the whole beautiful, complicated, chaotic dance of human attraction is boiled down to a 3-step flowchart. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. This all sounds weird, maybe even a little creepy. But stick with me, because this is where it gets truly fascinating. What happens when we take this bizarre playbook and hold it up against actual mainstream psychology and data? This is where socializing tries to become a science. Check this out. This is recent data on the professions people find most attractive. Doctors, lawyers, they're always right up near the top. And for men looking at women, teachers are often number 1. So why these jobs specifically? What's the common thread here? And the answer, believe it or not, brings us right back to that playbook. Think about it. What does being a doctor or lawyer signal? Intelligence, financial security. A teacher? caregiving, nurturing. In the language of the mystery method, these professions are just massive socially acceptable DHVs. They are demonstrations of higher value. So for all its flaws, the system actually tapped into a very real, observable pattern in what we find attractive. And it goes even deeper than that. The tactics in the book, whether the author knew it or not, are basically clumsy attempts to weaponize real psychological principles. The stuff about how to stand and use personal space, well, that's a real field of study called proxemics. Trying to understand someone's relationship patterns, that's dipping into attachment theory. And the whole idea of compliance momentum, it's a crude version of cognitive dissonance, our need to have our actions line up with our beliefs. The system is controversial because it tries to engineer these natural principles to get a specific outcome. And this, right here, is the fundamental difference. A system like the game is all about getting compliance, about winning a prize. It uses a script and views the other person as a target. But genuine connection? That's about seeking trust and understanding. It embraces being vulnerable and spontaneous. It's not about winning an interaction, it's about sharing one. It's about creating a safe space, not running a playbook. This whole idea of a calculated performance brings us to a really fascinating place. The world of magicians. Let's look at them not just as tricksters, but as the absolute grandmasters of performing a carefully constructed reality. I mean, think about the absolute legends. You have Houdini in 1904, stunning everyone by escaping these custom-built handcuffs that took years to design. Then you fast forward to David Copperfield, sawing himself in half on stage or making it look like he escaped from Alcatraz. These aren't magic spells. They are masterpieces of engineering, of psychology, and of an absolutely flawless method, all designed to create the illusion of the impossible. And that is the real connection here. A great magician's onstage identity is a total performance. The guy named David Copperfield is different from the character David Copperfield, the illusionist. And that's a perfect parallel to the performed self that systems like the mystery method encourage people to build. It raises a really interesting question, doesn't it? When does a carefully constructed presentation of yourself stop being a performance and just start being you? What's even cooler is that the history of magic is also a history of debunking frauds. Back in the 1800s, you had these guys called the Davenport brothers, who claimed they could summon spirits. So another magician, John Maskelyne, called them out. And how did he do it? He promised he could recreate their entire performance, step by step, using nothing but good old-fashioned stage magic. It just goes to show you, the person with a better understanding of the method can not only create an illusion, but they can also expose those who pretend their system is something more than a trick. So after all of this, where does that leave us? We've seen how having a method can build engines, create illusions, and even try to script human connection. But what happens when you decide to just close the playbook? That's our final section, Life Beyond the Rules. I think this quote from Steve Jobs is the perfect alternative to a rigid step-by-step system. What he's saying is that real creativity isn't a formula. It's not about following steps A, B, and C. It's an intuition. It's about seeing connections that other people don't see. And it's messy, it's unpredictable, and you really can't write an instruction manual for it. And this quote from psychologist Dan Gilbert, this just gets to the absolute heart of why any rigid system for people is pretty much doomed to fail. These playbooks are built on one fundamental, flawed assumption, that people are static puzzles that can be solved. But we're not. We are works in progress. The person you're talking to right now is as temporary as all the people they've ever been. We're always changing, which makes any pre-written script obsolete the second you try to use it. So what's the antidote? This idea from David Brooks might just be it. He suggests that the most critical human skill isn't about mastering a system to get what you want from someone. It's the total opposite. It's the art of giving something to them, your full attention, the simple ability to see another person deeply for who they are in that moment and make them feel that you see them. That's a skill no playbook in the world can teach you. So, in the end, we're left with this question. Look, we need systems. We need them to build bridges, to master our craft, to achieve our goals. But when it comes to human connection, maybe the most important rule of all is knowing exactly when to throw the rulebook away. So think about it. In a world full of systems, which rules are you following? And which ones are you brave enough to break?